Hey guys, it's Mariana, and today we're talking about Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 1, The Wars to Come. So before I begin, I just want to remind you, as always, to be mindful of others when you're commenting. So if you're talking about something spoilery from the book that hasn't happened in the show yet, or if you're talking about the episodes that have been leaked online and you somehow watched them, please make sure to give a proper spoiler warnings so people don't accidentally read stuff they don't want to read. Other than that, let's get started. So overall, I thought Season 5 is off to a very good start. This was a pretty eventful episode. There was a lot of things that were set up in different locations. We got to see not all of the characters, but quite a few of them. We got to see what's going on in King's Landing. We got to see what's going on with Tyrion and Varys, who are in Pentos. We also got to see Daenerys and people at the Wall, and even a little bit of Sansa and Peter Baelish. So I would say this was a pretty good episode. I definitely enjoyed it, and I definitely cannot wait to see what happens next. So let's talk about King's Landing first. The very first thing we saw in the episode is a flashback to young Cersei when her and her friend are going to see this creepy witch in the forest, and they show up there. Cersei wants to know her future. She wants to know if she's going to marry the prince, and after a short exchange, the witch agrees to tell her what her future is, and she says she's going to marry the king, not the prince, and that she in fact is going to be the queen for a time, but then afterwards there's going to be somebody younger and more beautiful, and someone who's going to take everything that she holds dear from her, and pretty much she's going to be screwed after that one. And after that, we return to the present timeline where Cersei is going to see Tywin's body. She's kind of on her way and making all these other people wait because that's just the person that she is. And she's giving dirty looks to Margaery because she thinks that Margaery is the person who is going to take everything away from her. And Margaery is out to be the queen, but at the same time, she doesn't know that Daenerys, or she's not concerned with Daenerys that much, but that could also be the person who is younger and more beautiful and out to take the throne away from her. Time will tell. But anyway, she gets to see Tywin, and Jaime is guarding Tywin's body, and Cersei is just being her annoying self. Jaime is trying to warn her that now that their father is dead, there is going to be a lot of people after them and trying to just tear everything apart, but Cersei is just looking for people to blame. She is still focused on Tyrion, and now she's also mad at Jaime because she knows Jaime is the one who let Tyrion out of his cell. So she says, you know, at least Tyrion killed our father on purpose, you killed him on accident. Pretty much she's just being a bitch and making him feel even worse than he felt already. Later on, we keep following Cersei, and she encounters her cousin Lancel. If you remember him from earlier seasons, she kind of had a thing with him while Jaime wasn't there, and he has been reborn. He tells her he found peace in the light of the Seven and that she could find peace as well, and she just laughs it off because Cersei doesn't give a shit. She just wants more wine and revenge. That's kind of her goal in this at the moment. Around the same time, we also get the short interaction between Margaery and Loras Tyrell, where pretty much we find out that Margaery is also plotting because she doesn't want to be stuck with Cersei as her mother-in-law in King's Landing and just have it be a pain in the butt that obviously it's going to be, and she definitely has something in her mind, and we'll find out soon enough. As for Tyrion, him and Varys finally arrive in Pentos. Tyrion is really shaken up by his journey. He's also still not over the fact that he just killed Shae and killed his father, and he just kind of wants to drown his sorrows in wine. And at the same time, Varys is trying to convince him that he needs to think about the Seven Kingdoms and there is more to be done. And in the beginning, Tyrion is not having this at all. He tells Varys that he thinks that the future is shit just like the past. And later on, Varys approaches him again and he says, you know, I saved you for the Seven Kingdoms, so you need to get your act together. And he says, you have a talent for politics just like your father did, and you also have compassion, and though you won't sit on the Iron Throne, you can help another one climb the steps. And Varys says that this needs to be somebody who is tougher than Tommen and at the same time more gentle than Stannis, and this person needs to have this army and they need to be loved by the people, and Tyrion is just kind of like, good luck finding this guy. And Varys says, who said anything about him? Because he's actually talking about Daenerys Targaryen, and he has been apparently a supporter of the Targaryens under the covers. He basically tells Tyrion that he has two choices. He can either drink himself to death in Illyrio's palace or come with him to Meereen and meet Daenerys Targaryen. And Tyrion thinks about it for a second and he says, can I drink myself to death on the road to Meereen? So Tyrion's on board, and hopefully we will see him meet Daenerys and have that interaction this season. I really hope this is not something that's going to drag on until season 6 and we won't actually see them interact in any way. I think this is actually a very exciting development. I think if Daenerys is smart, she's not going to just reject them because they are from King's Landing and because Tyrion is a Lannister. She needs their help, to be honest, because in one of the scenes this episode, she says, I'm not a politician, I'm a queen. And I think this is where her weakness is at the moment, because what she doesn't understand is that she can't just say, I'm the queen, so you have to listen to me, all of you. Westeros is so much about the politics right now, and there are so many things going on that she doesn't know about. So she would really, really benefit from the advice of both Varys and Tyrion. So hopefully we will see them interact, and hopefully she's going to be smart about it in the future. Since I started talking about Daenerys, let's just talk about what's going on at Meereen at the moment. There are two developments there that have happened in this episode. First of all, we see one of the Unsullied go into the brothel, and you're kind of like, why is he going into a brothel? What is he going to do there? Apparently, he just wants to cuddle and have someone hum a song to him, which is legit, I guess. But a few seconds later, he gets his throat slit by somebody wearing a golden mask, and apparently this is one of the Sons of Harpy, which is the new group that got introduced in this episode. It seems like Sons of Harpy are the masters that are unhappy with Daenerys' rule. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it seems like right now. They used to be slave owners, and now they're kind of like, we need to get these people out of here. We don't like the Unsullied. We don't like this queen, so let's do something about it. And obviously Daenerys wants the murderer found and brought to justice. At the same time, we have another guy who just came back from Yunkai, where she's trying to kind of extend her rule into there as well and make sure there's order. And he says that the former masters want to reopen the fighting pits. And Daenerys is very much against it. She says this is where slaves were forced to fight to the death, and no, there's no way that's being open, and she is not convinced that this is necessary at all. Later on, we see Daario trying to convince Daenerys that she does need to allow for the fighting pits to be open again, and she doesn't understand what he wants, but he gives her a little bit of a background of how he became who he is, and apparently his mother sold him to slavery, and then he was forced to fight in the pits, and he learned how to fight, and pretty much his point is, I became the man that I am today because of the fighting pits. And she kind of starts reconsidering, it seems like, but he transitions into something different. He says that Daenerys needs to show strength right now because she has made a lot of enemies, and she needs to show that she is still the queen and the mother of dragons, and anybody with a lot of money can buy an army of Unsullied, and she's not the mother of Unsullied. She's supposed to be the mother of dragons. And Daenerys is like, well, here's the thing. I don't want another dead child at my feet, and I haven't seen Drogon in weeks, so I don't really control my dragons anymore, and I locked the other two up. Daario tells her that Dragon Queen without dragons is not a queen, and she knows that he has a point, so she decides to go down to where she locked up her dragons last season and, you know, just talk to them, see what's up, apparently. I don't know, she was calling out to them. I didn't know what her point was with going down there. And obviously they are pissed off, and they actually look quite a bit bigger at least the way I remember them. I don't remember them being as large, and she pretty much runs off, and that's that. I am not really sure where this is going. I mean, she clearly needs to get control of her dragons and possibly embrace the destructive side that comes with that, but it's not like she can explain who she is to the dragons. I mean, they are upset that she locked them up in the dungeon, so I don't really know how this is going to go. I'm really curious what's going to happen with that. Also in this episode, we got a quick glimpse of Brienne and Podrick, as well as Peter Baelish and Sansa. And Brienne and Podrick are pretty much just trying to figure out their next move. Well, Podrick thinks that he's going to continue squiring with Brienne, and she is very disappointed in everything. She doesn't want anybody following her. She says all she ever wanted was to follow a lord that she believed in, and all of the good lords are dead, and all of the others are monsters, and pretty much she's upset. And Podrick says, well, you also promised to find Sansa, and she's like, you need to stop talking right now. And ironically, at the same time, Sansa and Peter are just riding in the carriage right past them. That's just how things work, apparently. They have just dropped off Robin to stay with Lord Royce and supposedly learn sword fighting, but really they just don't need this kid following them around. He can stay in the Vale, and they don't really care what happens to him at this point, because he has a lot to learn before he realizes he's Lord of the Vale and he has any kind of power. And now they're heading west. They have told Lord Royce that they're heading to the Fingers, but of course Baelish doesn't trust anybody, so in reality they're heading west. We don't know where. Sansa's being a smartass, which was hilarious, making fun of Peter for not trusting Lord Royce with their destination, and she says, you know, you don't trust anybody. How do you trust the person who's driving this carriage? And he says, I trust people who I've paid off well, because they know what happens to those who disappoint me. And she says, well, where are we going? Are we going to the land where you trust everybody? And he says they're going to a land so far that even Cersei Lannister can't get her hands on Sansa, which I'm having trouble imagining where that is, because west from where they are, it's like Harrenhal and Casterly Rock, and that's kind of it. So I really do wonder where they're going. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And finally, we have some important events going on at the Wall with Jon and Stannis and Mance Rayder and Melisandre and all of those people. First of all, side note, Sir Alliser is alive apparently, which I did not expect. I thought Sir Alliser died from his wounds after that battle, but apparently he didn't, so that's interesting. Basically, Stannis sends Melisandre to get Jon, and they have this really awkward exchange in the elevator where he asks her if she is cold, and she pretty much tells him that, no, I am very hot. And then she asks him if he's a virgin, and he says no, and she says, good. I don't even know where that's going. It's really strange. I was feeling the awkwardness that Jon Snow was feeling. Turns out Stannis wants to avenge the Starks. He wants to take back Winterfell, take the North, and kill the Boltons, which I am all for. Good job, Stannis. I'm on board with what you're doing now. But obviously he needs more men for that, and what he wants from Jon is that he wants to convince Mance Rayder to bend the knee, and he says that if he does that, then Stannis, in exchange for the wildlings fighting for him, will give the wildlings their freedom, and he will give them some land, and pretty much everybody will be well off, and all Mance has to do is bend the knee. And Jon has until nightfall to convince Mance that this is a good plan, and of course Mance is not going to bend the knee. He's going to stick with what he believes in. He doesn't want his people fighting this other guy's war, and even though he doesn't want to die, and especially he doesn't want to be burned alive, he's still going to stick to his principles. And Jon tells him, I think you're making a terrible mistake, and Mance says, the freedom to make my own mistakes is all I ever wanted. So now Mance is heading to his own execution, and Stannis once again offers him to kneel and save himself, and of course Mance once again denies this. He says, this has been my home for many years and I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. And he pretty much accepts his fate. Then Melisandre makes this really weird speech about making the wrong choices, and this is what happens if you make the wrong choices. And as Mansa's being burned alive, Stannis' wife is being really creepy and smiling and watching all of this. And finally, Jon Snow, the good guy that he is, decides that he needs to end Man's suffering and let him die without screaming, and so he shoots them with an arrow, and that's how the episode ends. My question with that is, what happens to the wildlings now? They're still prisoners of Stannis, so technically I'm assuming he can still make them fight for him. It's not like he's just going to let them go. There's also a possibility that Stannis will offer them a choice of either they can go and try to survive on their own, or they can follow him and get pardon and get land and all of that. So we'll find out soon. I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that Mance Rayder died this episode. I was not surprised that he didn't bend the knee. Obviously he wasn't going to kneel to Stannis. That was clear from the very beginning. But I thought and I hoped that they would come to some kind of understanding. But overall, like I said, I thought this was a very good episode. There's a lot of setup that happened, and you can definitely see that every group of people that they showed has a very distinct set of problems that they need to deal with, like, now. So we'll see how all of this plays out. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode and where do you think all of this is going. Like I said, if you're talking about spoilers from the books or talking about stuff from the future episodes, make sure to use a spoiler warning so people can know what they're getting into when they're reading your comments. But for the rest of us, let's talk about it in the comments below. What are your theories? What do you think will happen? How do you think people will deal with all of this stuff in the show? Stuff like that. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. I will be doing these recaps for as long as the show is airing, at least during season 5, hopefully later on as well. I will also have more Game of Thrones related videos and Song of Ice and Fire related videos once the season ends, as far as favorites, non-favorites, book to show comparisons, all of that. There'll be a lot more Game of Thrones content, so if you like that, definitely subscribe to my channel. I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!